Mark Thompson wiped his hands on a dish towel, staring at the clock as the minutes ticked closer to 6. His son, Jamie, had insisted they have a special guest for dinner tonight. Mark wasn't sure what to expect. His 10-year-old didn't usually make social plans without his help. When the doorbell rang, Mark froze for a moment before answering. Standing on the porch was a woman in a sleek navy coat, holding a small bouquet of flowers. Her smile was warm but polished, the kind you'd expect from someone used to boardrooms, not small suburban kitchens. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm Clara. Jamie invited me." Mark blinked, confused. He did. From behind him, Jamie ran out, beaming. "Dad! This is Miss Clara, the lady who helped me when I lost my backpack at the cafe." Mark's hesitation melted slightly. He invited her in, though part of him wondered why a woman like her, refined, confident, clearly successful, was having dinner with two strangers. As they sat down, the conversation flowed easier than expected. Clara laughed at Jamie's stories, complimented Mark's cooking, and asked thoughtful questions about their life. But when Mark mentioned losing his job months ago, her expression changed, gentle, understanding, almost emotional. Something about her presence felt deeper than chance. Mark didn't know it yet, but Clara wasn't just being kind. She was about to change both their lives forever. The smell of roasted chicken and garlic bread filled the small kitchen. Mark served dinner with quiet pride. Cooking was one of the few ways he still felt in control after losing his job. Clara complimented every dish, but it wasn't flattery, her tone carried genuine warmth. "So, Mr. Thompson," she said, slicing into her chicken, "what kind of work were you in before?" Mark chuckled lightly. "Just call me Mark. I was a project supervisor for a construction firm. Company downsized last spring." He tried to sound casual, but the weariness in his voice betrayed him. Clara nodded thoughtfully. "You must miss it." He shrugged. "What I miss most is giving Jamie a normal life. Things have been tight." There was a pause, not awkward, but meaningful. Clara glanced at Jamie, who was proudly showing her his hand-drawn, family restaurant menu. Something in her eyes softened. "Jamie," she said with a smile, "you know, your dad sounds like the kind of person any company would be lucky to have." Mark laughed, unsure if she was just being kind. "If you know any companies hiring, let me know." Clara's smile lingered, mysterious now. "Actually," she said carefully, "I might know someone." Before Mark could ask, Jamie interrupted, "Miss Clara, what do you do?" Clara looked at the little boy, then at his father. "I run a company that builds community housing projects," she said simply. "We're always looking for people who understand both hard work and heart." Mark froze. "Wait, you run the company?" She nodded. "Yes. I'm the CEO of Bright Rise Developments." For the first time that night, Mark was speechless. His son's dinner guest wasn't just a kind stranger, she was a woman with the power to change everything. The air around the table seemed to shift. Mark stared at Clara, unsure whether to laugh or apologize for every casual word he'd said. "You're a CEO?" he repeated, trying to process it. Clara smiled modestly. "Titles don't mean much at the dinner table. Tonight, I'm just Clara." Jamie, completely unaware of the tension, was thrilled. "Dad! Maybe she can help you get a job." Mark felt his cheeks flush. "Jamie," he murmured, embarrassed. "It's not that simple." But Clara's gaze remained kind. "Actually," she said softly, "it might be." She leaned forward, her voice gentle yet purposeful. "We're starting a new project, rebuilding old neighborhoods into affordable homes. It's about giving people a fresh start. From what you've told me, Mark, you'd be perfect for the team." Mark blinked, stunned. "You're offering me a job? Just like that?" Clara nodded. "Not charity, opportunity. I saw how you treat people, how you raised this young man alone. That says more about you than any resume ever could." He hesitated. Pride tugged at him. He didn't want pity or handouts. "I appreciate that," he said carefully, "but I wouldn't want you to feel obligated." Clara interrupted, smiling. "Mark, I don't offer jobs out of obligation. I offer them to people who deserve them." Jamie grinned from ear to ear. "See, Dad? I told you inviting her was a good idea." For the first time in months, Mark felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. He didn't know it yet, but this dinner wasn't just the start of a new job. It was the beginning of something far more meaningful for all three of them. A month later, Mark stood outside the tall glass building of Brightrise Developments, the morning sun glinting off its logo. He adjusted his tie, borrowed, slightly wrinkled, and took a deep breath before stepping inside. Clara had kept her word. Within a week of their dinner, he'd been hired as a site supervisor. It wasn't just a job, it was a second chance. As weeks passed, Mark proved himself quickly. His work ethic, his respect for his crew, and his ability to find practical solutions earned him praise across the board. Yet every time Clara visited a site, she treated him not like an employee, but like an equal. One late afternoon, after the crew had left, Mark found her walking alone through the unfinished homes. "You don't visit these places just to check progress, do you?" he asked gently. Clara smiled faintly. "You notice everything, don't you?" He shrugged. "Comes with being a dad." She looked out over the rows of half-built houses. "When I was 16, she began quietly, my father and I lost our home. For a while, we slept in our car. People passed by without seeing us." Mark's heart tightened. "I'm sorry, Clara. I didn't know. That's why I started this company," she continued. "To make sure no one feels invisible again. I see the same fight in you, the same love for family." He stood silently for a moment, the weight of her words settling deep within him. What began as gratitude turned into admiration, and something warmer he couldn't yet name. For the first time, he realized Clara wasn't just helping rebuild homes. She was rebuilding hearts, starting with his. Winter arrived with soft flakes of snow dusting the rooftops of the nearly completed Brightrise project. Mark stood in the middle of the new neighborhood, rows of warm, welcoming homes replacing the crumbling buildings that once stood here. He couldn't help but feel proud. Clara walked beside him, wrapped in a cream coat, her cheeks pink from the cold. "You've done incredible work, Mark," she said sincerely. He smiled. "We did. This was your vision." Clara shook her head. "My vision. Your heart." Behind them, Jamie ran ahead, laughing as he kicked at the snow. His joy filled the air, light, pure, contagious. For a moment, everything felt exactly as it should. A few weeks later, Brightrise held an opening ceremony for the families moving into their new homes. Clara stood at the podium, speaking about hope, community, and second chances. Then, to Mark's surprise, she called him and Jamie onto the stage. "This man reminded me why I started all this," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "He showed me that kindness and resilience build more than homes, they build people." The audience applauded. Mark felt a lump in his throat as Jamie hugged him tightly. After the ceremony, Clara handed Mark a small envelope. Inside was a deed, to one of the new homes. "I can't accept this," he whispered, stunned. "Yes, you can," Clara said softly. "You've earned it." Tears blurred his vision as Jamie jumped with joy. For the first time in years, Mark realized he wasn't just surviving anymore, he was living. And as Clara smiled at them, Mark knew that what began as a simple dinner invitation had built something lasting, a home, a family, and a future filled with light.